The crowd gasped as the velvet curtain fell, revealing a sculpture that seemed to breathe with life. Towering in the center of the gallery, it was a figure of a woman, her arms outstretched as if embracing the sky, her face carved with such delicate detail that her smile felt alive. Every curve, every fold of her stone dress shimmered under the gallery lights, so perfect it was hard to believe a human hand had shaped it. Whispers filled the room, marvel, awe, disbelief, but the loudest gasp came when the artist stepped forward. Eliana, a young woman with a gentle face, stood beside her creation, her hands trembling slightly. Her eyes, clouded and unseeing, stared into nothingness. She was blind. The crowd fell silent, their shock so thick it seemed to choke the air. How could a blind woman carve something so breathtaking? The host of the gallery, a stern man named Miss Harrow, stepped up, his voice booming. Eliana Voss has created the impossible, he declared. A masterpiece born from darkness. Eliana smiled faintly, but her heart raced. She could feel the weight of every stare, hear the murmurs of doubt beneath the applause. Then, a voice cut through the crowd, a sharp, cruel voice. "This is a trick. No blind person could do this." It was Victor Crane, a famous sculptor with a sneer as cold as his marble statues. He stormed to the stage, pointing at Eliana. "She's a fraud. Someone else made this, and she's taking credit." The crowd erupted in chaos. Some shouted in Eliana's defense, others joined Victor's accusations. Eliana's hands clenched, her world spinning in the darkness of her blindness. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came. Then, Victor grabbed a chisel from a nearby table and thrust it toward her. "Prove it," he demanded. "Carve something right now, or admit you're a liar." The room froze. Eliana's breath caught. Her fingers twitched, longing for the familiar weight of her tools. But fear gripped her. Could she do it? Could she carve in front of all these people, with their eyes burning into her? The chisel hung in the air, and the crowd held its breath, waiting for her to fail, or to prove them all wrong. The story rewinds to 3 months earlier, in a small, cluttered workshop at the edge of town. Eliana, only 22, sat on a wooden stool, her hands gliding over a block of clay. Her fingers moved with a quiet confidence, feeling every dip and curve as if the clay whispered its secrets to her. She hadn't always been blind. Until she was 10, Eliana could see the world in vivid colors, sunsets that painted the sky red, the sparkle of dew on grass. But a sudden illness stole her sight, leaving her in a world of shadows. At first, she hated it. She hated the pity in people's voices, the way they treated her like she was broken. Her parents, kind but overprotective, kept her indoors, afraid she'd hurt herself. But Eliana wasn't the kind to give up. One day, she found a lump of clay in her father's shed. She was only 12 then, angry and lost, but when her fingers sank into the soft, cool clay, something clicked. It was like the world spoke to her again, not through her eyes, but through her hands. She started small, shaping lumpy bowls and crooked animals. Her parents thought it was just a hobby, something to keep her busy, but Eliana felt alive when she sculpted. She could see the shapes in her mind, clearer than any memory of color. By 16, her sculptures were so detailed that neighbors whispered about miracles. By 20, she was selling small pieces at local markets, though no one knew she was blind. She kept that secret, afraid people would doubt her talent. But secrets don't stay hidden forever. A year ago, a nosy journalist named Lila spotted Eliana at a market, her cane tapping softly as she arranged her sculptures. Lila wrote a story about the blind artist, and suddenly, Eliana's quiet life exploded. People came from miles away to buy her work. But not everyone was kind. Some, like Victor Crane, refused to believe a blind girl could outshine them. Victor was a local legend, a sculptor whose massive stone statues stood in city squares. He called Eliana's work child's play and swore she was faking her blindness for attention. Eliana tried to ignore him. She moved to a bigger workshop, funded by her growing sales, and poured her heart into her biggest project yet, the woman embracing the sky. She called it Hope, and it was her dream to show it at the town's annual art gala, the biggest event for artists. If she could prove herself there, maybe people like Victor would stop doubting her. Maybe she'd finally believe in herself, too. But doubt was a heavy shadow. Every night, as she worked, Eliana worried. What if her blindness made her miss something? What if her hands betrayed her? She'd lie awake, hearing Victor's cruel words in her head. Fraud. Liar. Her best friend, Sam, a cheerful carpenter who built her work tables, tried to lift her spirits. You are better than all of them, Eli, he'd say, his voice warm like summer. Your hands see what their eyes can't. Sam was her rock, but even he couldn't stop the fear growing inside her. The gala was coming, and with it, a chance to show the world what she could do or lose everything. Victor had already spread rumors telling anyone who'd listen that Eliana's sculptures were made by someone else. The art world was buzzing with gossip, and the gala's organizer, Mr. Harrow, had taken a risk inviting her. If she failed, she'd prove Victor right. Days before the gala, Eliana worked late, her hands sore and her heart heavy. She was shaping Hope's final details, the curve of the woman's smile, the tilt of her head. Suddenly, a crash echoed through the workshop. Eliana froze, her hands hovering over the clay. "Who's there?" she called, her voice shaking. Footsteps crunched on the floor, slow and deliberate. Someone was in her workshop, someone who didn't belong. She grabbed her cane, her heart pounding. "Sam, is that you?" No answer. The footsteps stopped, and something cold brushed against her arm. A hand? A tool? She stumbled back, knocking over a tray of chisels. The clatter was deafening, and then silence. Whoever it was, they were gone. But when Eliana reached for Hope, her fingers found something wrong. A deep gash ran across the sculpture's arm, jagged and cruel. Someone had tried to ruin her work. Tears stung her eyes, but Eliana clenched her fists. She wouldn't let this stop her. She spent all night fixing the gash, her hands trembling but steady. By morning, Hope was whole again, more beautiful than ever. But the fear lingered. Who had done this? Was it Victor, trying to sabotage her? Or someone else? Someone who hated her success? The day of the gala arrived, and Eliana stood backstage, her heart racing. Sam was there, squeezing her hand. "You've got this," he whispered. But as the curtain rose and the crowd gasped at Hope, Victor's voice cut through like a knife. "She's a fraud," he shouted, and the challenge came. "Prove it. Carve something now." Eliana's world tilted. The chisel was in her hand, cold and heavy. The crowd was waiting, their doubt pressing against her like a storm. Could she do it? Could she carve under this pressure with no sight to guide her? Only her hands and her heart? And then, a new sound broke the silence, a low, mocking laugh from the back of the room. It wasn't Victor's voice. It was someone else. Someone who knew her secret. Someone who wanted her to fail. The mocking laugh echoed in Eliana's ears, sharp and cold, like a blade slicing through the gallery's tense air. She gripped the chisel Victor had thrust into her hand, her knuckles white. The crowd's whispers grew louder, a buzzing swarm of doubt and curiosity. Eliana's heart pounded so hard she thought it might burst. Who was laughing? Why did their voice feel so familiar, like a ghost from her past? She wanted to run, to hide in the safety of her workshop, but the weight of every stare pinned her in place. She had to prove herself now, or lose everything she'd fought for. The gallery lights burned hot above her, though she couldn't see them. She could feel their warmth, the way they made her skin prickle. Mr. Harrow, the gala's host, cleared his throat. Well, Miss Voss, he said, his voice teetering between encouragement and impatience. Will you show us what you can do? Ileana swallowed hard. Her hands trembled, but she forced them steady. She had to try. For hope. For herself. She stepped toward a small block of clay Mr. Harrow's assistant had placed on the table nearby. The crowd hushed, their breath held like a storm about to break. Ileana's fingers brushed the clay, cool and soft, like a friend welcoming her back. She closed her eyes, not that it mattered, and let her hands take over. They moved fast, carving a simple shape. A bird, its wings spread as if ready to fly. Her fingers danced, shaping feathers, a beak, the curve of a tiny head. The crowd gasped softly, but Ileana barely heard them. She was lost in the clay, in the vision only she could see. Minutes passed like seconds. When she stepped back, her hands covered in clay, the bird was done. It wasn't as grand as hope, but it was alive, every detail sharp and perfect. The crowd erupted in applause, some cheering, others whispering in awe. Ileana's chest loosened, relief flooding her. She'd done it. She'd proven Victor wrong. But then, that laugh came again low, cruel, from the back of the room. Ileana froze. The voice was closer now, and she knew it. It was Lila, the journalist who'd first written about her. Lila, who'd once called her a miracle, but whose tone now dripped with venom. Cute trick, Lila called out, stepping forward. But anyone can memorize a simple shape. Let's see her do something real, something new. Under pressure, the crowd murmured, some nodding. Doubt crept back, heavier than before. Ileana's stomach twisted. Why was Lila doing this? She'd been kind once, hadn't she? Ileana remembered Lila's visit to her workshop a year ago, her soft voice asking questions, her pen scratching notes. But now, Lila's words felt like a trap. Before Ileana could speak, Sam's voice cut through. She just carved a bird in 5 minutes, he shouted from the side of the stage. What more do you want? The crowd cheered for Sam, but Lila only smirked. I want the truth, she said. Let's see her carve something no one's seen before. Or maybe she's hiding something. Or Victor, still standing nearby, grinned like a wolf. Exactly, he said. If she's so talented, let's make it harder. Blindfold her. No tricks. Ileana's breath caught. A blindfold? She was already blind, didn't they know that? But the crowd was eating it up, their excitement growing. Mr. Harrow hesitated, then nodded. Very well, he said. A blindfold. And a new challenge. Carve something unique right now. Ileana's world spun. A blindfold wouldn't change anything she couldn't see anyway, but the pressure was crushing her. Sam rushed to her side, whispering, You don't have to do this, Eli. You've already shown them. But Ileana shook her head. I have to, she whispered back. If I don't, they'll never believe me. Sam squeezed her hand, his warmth steadying her, but it wasn't enough to quiet the fear clawing at her chest. An assistant tied a soft cloth over her eyes, the fabric cool against her skin. The crowd went silent again, waiting. Ileana's hands found a new block of clay, larger this time. She took a deep breath, trying to block out Lila's laugh, Victor's sneer, the weight of 100 eyes. She thought of hope, of the woman reaching for the sky. She thought of her childhood, of the colors she lost, of the way her hands had saved her. And then her fingers moved. She carved fast, her hands guided by something deeper than sight, a feeling, a memory. She shaped a tree, its branches twisting upward, leaves curling like they were caught in a breeze. The crowd gasped as the shape took form, faster than they expected. Ileana's hands were a blur, clay falling away like magic. But halfway through, her chisel hit something hard. A clink echoed, sharp and wrong. She froze. There was something inside the clay, something that shouldn't be there. Her fingers brushed it, cold, smooth, Metal. A tool? A trap? The crowd murmured, sensing something was wrong. Ileana's heart raced. Had someone tampered with the clay, just like they slashed Hope in her workshop? She wanted to stop, to pull back, but she couldn't. Not now. She worked around the metal, her hands shaking, shaping the tree's trunk to hide it. Sweat beaded on her forehead as she fought to keep going, to make something beautiful despite the sabotage. When she finished, the crowd roared. The blindfold was pulled off, though it made no difference to her. Sam's voice was in her ear, proud and fierce. "You did it, Eli. It's incredible." But Ileana could barely smile. The metal inside the clay haunted her. Someone had planned this, someone who wanted her to fail. She turned toward the crowd, trying to find Lila's voice, but it was gone. Had Lila slipped away? Or was she still watching, waiting for Ileana to crumble? Mr. Harrell stepped forward, his voice booming. "A triumph," he declared. "Ileana Voss is no fraud." The applause was deafening, but Victor's face was dark with rage. He stormed off the stage, muttering something Ileana couldn't hear. She should have felt victorious, but instead, she felt trapped. The metal in the clay, Lila's laugh, the gash on Hope, they were all connected. Someone wasn't just doubting her. Someone was trying to destroy her. As the crowd cheered, Sam led her backstage, his arm around her shoulders. "You show them," he said, but Ileana's mind was elsewhere. She leaned close to him, her voice low. "Sam, there was something in the clay. Metal. It wasn't an accident." Sam's grip tightened. "What? Are you sure?" Ileana nodded, her throat tight. "Someone's trying to ruin me, and I think it's more than just Victor." Before Sam could answer, a crash came from the gallery floor. The crowd screamed, and Ileana's heart stopped. She couldn't see it, but she heard the unmistakable sound of stone shattering her sculpture. Hope was falling. Someone had pushed it, and it was crashing to the ground, breaking into 1,000 pieces. The sound of Hope crashing to the gallery floor was like a scream in Ileana's heart. The crowd's gasps and cries filled the air, but to her, it was all a blur of noise, drowned out by the shattering of her masterpiece. Her hands flew to her mouth, her cane slipping from her grip as she stumbled forward. "No," she cried, her voice breaking. Sam caught her arm, steadying her, but his own voice was tight with shock. "Eli, stay here, I'll check it," he said, but she shook her head, pushing past him. She had to know. She had to feel it. The crowd parted as Ileana moved toward the wreckage, her hands outstretched, trembling. Her fingers found the remains of Hope, jagged chunks of stone scattered across the floor, sharp edges that cut her skin as she touched them. The woman who had reached for the sky was gone, reduced to rubble. Tears burned Ileana's unseeing eyes, but she didn't let them fall. Not here. Not with everyone watching. "Who did this?" she whispered, her voice shaking but loud enough for the crowd to hear. No one answered. The gallery was a storm of whispers, some horrified, others accusing. "It was an accident," someone shouted. "No, someone pushed it," another voice cried. Ileana's hands clenched around a piece of stone, its cold weight grounding her even as her world spun. This was no accident. First the gash on Hope in her workshop, then the metal in the clay, and now this. Someone wanted her to fail, wanted her broken, just like her sculpture. Sam knelt beside her, his hand on her shoulder. "Eli, we'll figure this out," he said, his voice low and fierce. "I swear." But Ileana could hear the doubt in his tone, the same doubt creeping into her own heart. She stood, clutching the stone fragment, and faced the crowd she couldn't see. "I made Hope with my hands," she said, her voice steady despite the pain. "I made it to show you what I see in my heart, and someone destroyed it. But I'm not done. I'll make something even greater." The crowd erupted in cheers, some clapping, others shouting her name, but Ileana heard that laugh again. Lila's laugh, sharp and mocking, somewhere in the chaos. It was gone as quickly as it came, but it left a chill in her bones. Why was Lila doing this? What had changed since that first article when Lila had called her a miracle? Ileana's mind raced, piecing together fragments of memory. Lila had visited her workshop again a month ago, asking strange questions about her process, her tools, even her blindness. At the time, Ileana thought Lila was writing another story. Now, she wasn't so sure. Mr. Harrow's voice boomed over the crowd, trying to restore order. Please, everyone, calm down. This is a tragedy, but the gala will continue. He turned to Ileana, his tone softer. Miss Voss, we'll investigate this. I promise. For now, let's move you backstage. Ileana nodded, letting Sam guide her away. But her mind was screaming. Investigate? She didn't trust anyone here, not Mr. Harrow, not the crowd, and definitely not Lila or Victor. Backstage, the air was cooler, but Ileana's skin still burned with anger and fear. Sam stayed close, his presence steady, but she could feel his worry. Eli, what do you want to do? He asked. We can leave, go back to the workshop, figure this out. Ileana shook her head. No, if I leave now, they win. Whoever did this wants me to run. She paused, her fingers tracing the stone fragment in her hand. Sam, I need to know who's behind this. And I need to keep going. I have to make another sculpture something they can't break. Sam hesitated. Eli, it's not safe. Someone's targeting you. The gash, the metal. Now this is too much. Ileana turned toward his voice, her jaw tight. That's why I can't stop. If I do, they'll think I'm weak. I'm not weak, Sam. Her voice cracked, and for a moment, she felt like that scared 10-year-old girl trapped in darkness after her sight was stolen. But she wasn't that girl anymore. She was Ileana Voss, the artist who turned clay into dreams. Sam sighed, his hand squeezing hers. Okay, but I'm not leaving your side, and we're locking the workshop tonight, no more intruders. Ileana nodded, grateful for him. But as they planned, a new sound interrupted a soft tap, like a cane on the floor. Ileana froze. It wasn't her cane. Hers was still on the ground where she'd dropped it. Someone else was here. Someone who moved quietly, deliberately. Sam, she whispered, do you hear that? Before he could answer, a voice spoke, low and smooth. Not Lila's or Victor's. Impressive, Miss Voss, it said. You're tougher than I thought. Ileana's heart stopped. The voice was unfamiliar, but it carried a weight, a threat. She turned toward it, her hands tightening around the stone fragment. Who are you? She demanded. The voice chuckled. Closer now. Someone who's been watching you. Someone who knows your secret. Ileana's blood ran cold. Her secret? Did they mean her blindness? Or something else? She thought of the gash on Hope, the metal in the clay, the laughter. Was this person behind it all? She opened her mouth to speak, but the tapping stopped, and the voice was gone. Sam rushed forward, his footsteps loud as he checked the backstage area. There's no one here, he said, his voice tight with frustration. But Ileana knew better. Someone had been there, and they were playing a game, a dangerous one. She clutched the stone fragment tighter, her mind racing. She had to keep going, had to rebuild hope, or make something even better. But the fear was growing, a shadow she couldn't shake. Who was this new voice? What did they know? And what would they do next? As Sam led her out of the gallery, the crowd's cheers fading behind them, Ileana made a decision. She would go back to her workshop tonight, start a new sculpture, something no one could destroy. But first, she needed answers. She needed to know who was trying to ruin her, and why. Outside, the night air was cold, and Ileana shivered. Sam's arm was around her, but it couldn't stop the chill in her heart. Sam, she said, her voice barely a whisper. I think someone's been in my workshop before, not just the night of the gash. I've heard things, tools moved, clay misplaced. I thought I was imagining it. Sam stopped walking, his voice sharp. Why didn't you tell me? Eliana swallowed. I didn't want to believe it was real. Before Sam could respond, a scream pierced the night. It came from the alley beside the gallery, high and panicked. Eliana's heart raced. Sam, what's that? She asked, gripping his arm. He hesitated, then pulled her toward the sound. Stay close, he said, his voice tense. They rounded the corner, and Sam gasped. Eli, it's Leela. She's on the ground. She's hurt. Eliana's breath caught. Lila, the journalist who'd mocked her, who laughed, hurt? Was this another trap, or had the person behind the sabotage struck again? Sam knelt beside Leela, checking her pulse. She's alive, he said, but she's out cold. Someone hit her. Eliana's mind spun. Was Leela a victim now, or part of the plot? And then, from the darkness of the alley, that tapping sound came again, the same cane, the same deliberate steps, moving away into the night. Eliana's heart raced as the tapping of the cane faded into the night. The alley was cold, the air thick with the smell of damp stone and fear. Sam knelt beside Leela, his voice urgent. She's breathing, but we need help, he shouted, waving to a passerby from the gala who ran to call for an ambulance. Eliana stood frozen, clutching the stone fragment from Hope, her mind spinning. Lila, the journalist who'd mocked her, was now a victim. Was she part of the sabotage, or had she gotten too close to the truth? The tapping cane haunted Eliana, its rhythm too deliberate, too familiar, like a shadow she couldn't shake. Sam, we can't stay here, Eliana whispered, her voice tight. Whoever did this is still out there. Sam nodded, his face pale in the dim streetlight. Okay, but we need to get you somewhere safe. The workshop? Eliana hesitated. Her workshop, once her sanctuary, now felt like a trap, but she had nowhere else to go. Yes, she said finally, but we lock every door, every window, no one gets in. They hurried through the quiet streets, Eliana's cane tapping softly, her senses on edge. Every rustle of leaves, every distant footstep made her flinch. Sam's arm was steady around her, but she could feel his tension too. Eli, he said as they neared the workshop. What did that voice mean by your secret? You're blind, everyone knows that. What else could it be? Eliana's throat tightened. She never told anyone, not even Sam, about the one thing she feared could ruin her. The fleeting moments when she thought she saw light. Tiny flashes, like sparks in her darkness, that came and went. Doctors said it was impossible, just her brain playing tricks. But what if someone knew? What if they thought she was faking her blindness? She pushed the thought away as they reached the workshop. Sam checked the locks, his movements quick and careful. Everything's secure, he said, but his voice wavered. Inside, the familiar smell of clay calmed Eliana's nerves, but only slightly. She moved to her workbench, her hands finding the tools she knew by heart. I need to start something new, she said, her voice firm. Something they can't destroy. Sam frowned. Eli, it's not safe. We need to figure out who's doing this first. But Eliana was already reaching for a fresh block of clay, her fingers itching to create. As she worked, shaping the rough outline of a new figure, a child reaching for a star, Sam searched the workshop for clues. Eli, you said things were moved? He called. Yeah, she replied, her hands steady despite her racing heart. Tools out of place, clay blocks shifted. I thought I was imagining it. Sam's footsteps stopped. Eli, come here. His voice was sharp, urgent. She set down her chisel and followed his voice to the corner of the room. Her fingers brushed something cold, a metal box, hidden behind a stack of clay bags. What is it? She asked, her stomach twisting. Sam opened it, the hinges creaking. It's tools, not yours, and papers. Looks like sketches. Eliana's heart sank. She couldn't see them, but she felt Sam's tension. Read them, she said. Sam hesitated, then spoke. They're drawings of your sculptures. Hope, the bird, the tree. But they're wrong. Like someone was trying to copy you, but they got the details off. Eliana's mind raced. Someone had been in her workshop, studying her work, planning to sabotage her. But who? Before she could speak, a loud bang shook the workshop door. Eliana gasped, dropping her cane. Sam grabbed her arm, pulling her behind the workbench. Stay down, he whispered. The banging came again, harder, like someone was trying to break in. Eliana's heart pounded, her hands trembling as she gripped a stone fragment from Hope. Sam, what if it's them? She whispered. The person with the cane? Sam didn't answer, his breathing fast as he crept toward the door. The banging stopped, replaced by a scraping sound, like metal on wood. Eliana's blood ran cold. She knew that sound a chisel carving something into her door. She wanted to scream, to run, but her legs felt like stone. Sam peered through a crack in the window, his voice barely a whisper. Eli, there's no one there, but there's something carved on the door. It says, you can't hide. Eliana's breath caught. The words were a threat, a promise. Whoever was doing this wasn't just trying to ruin her work, they were coming for her. And as the workshop fell silent, a new sound began. The slow, deliberate tapping of a cane, circling the building, getting closer with every step.